Welcome to Authors Allies, the podcast where we dive into the world of authors, books, and the art of storytelling. Join us for in-depth interviews with celebrated authors, insightful book reviews, and practical tips on marketing your literary masterpiece. After 20 years publishing magazines, I, your host, Rebecca Paciorek, am so thrilled to be able to work within my dream of promoting authors and their books. Whether you're a seasoned writer or just starting your journey, we've got something for you. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's explore the fascinating world of books together. Hello, friends. Rebecca here with the Authors Allies podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to have one of the newest authors that I started reading last year, Arden Coutts. Really enjoyed your books that I've read so far. I am on your series and I'm trying to hold out. I really wanted to read the holiday book, but I did not because you said there would be spoilers. But Arden is a fabulous writer, and I don't even know how we met, Arden, but you'll have to fill us in. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone, kind of maybe, just a little about you, what kind of books you write and that. And then I have some questions that we'll roll into and talk about.
Wonderful.
Yay!
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, so much for having me on the podcast. I am beyond excited to be here. My name is Arden Coutts, and I like to say that I write queer fiction that tickles the imagination and chills you to the bone. Because I write a variety of queer fiction, from romantic suspense to horror. I'm working on a romantasy right now, so I'm kind of all over the place, but it all has a little bit of it's gay. So throwing that in there with everything that I write. But I started writing from a young age and
Yeah.
fell in love with it and have been writing ever since. So that's just a little bit about me.
So tell us where you're from, because I know I had down here that you grew up in Nebraska, and that's where you started doing your reading and writing. So how did growing up shape your perspective on the characters you create?
Oof, so much. I think
Yeah,
everything I write is impacted by my childhood and growing up
really?
in Nebraska.
Okay.
Um, I like to say I grew up in a place where there are like far more cows than people, and it was
Okay.
it was really small, really remote. And my mom would kind of just be like, go to the library. There's nothing else to do. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I spent a lot of my childhood kind of lost in the book stacks of our little library that we had in town, which was amazing. And I have put a lot of kind of I would say probably like the loneliness that I felt as a child
Okay.
growing up in almost all of my books. There's kind of that feeling of loneliness or wanting in a lot of my characters, and that definitely comes from growing up in a place where like there weren't a lot of people like me, and kind of growing up with that feeling of wanting more and not
Okay.
knowing how to get it or what steps to take or how to connect with people. So there's a lot of that in my books.
I can see where that would definitely, obviously we're all a byproduct of our environment and how we grew up, right? And that, I mean, yeah, more cows than people. I mean, that's kind of rough. When you're writing from your own personal experience, then how does that work? Like, how do you not just make the book totally about you? Or do you think your books really are about you and sort of this, fantasy world that maybe you want to live in?
I think you nailed it
Okay.
with the second part of that. I put a lot of myself into my characters,
Okay.
and they are different aspects of my personality. Like,
I love that.
in Fall into Midnight, which is the first book in the fall trilogy. Oh, right here.
Yay, yes. You definitely have
Um,
to show us your books.
Gray is very much that confident, kind of darker, grumpy side of myself,
Okay.
whereas Hannah is that like socially awkward, shy part of who I am. And I'd say that Gray kind of represents like who I wish I was in some ways.
Okay.
So I definitely put a lot of myself into my books, and the one that I'm working on, that is a post-apocalyptic horror story, Echoes of Us, um, which I've been sharing on my Patreon. It is almost nonfiction to
Really?
the
Wow.
point of I have to remember to change names.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It it's very much kind of my childhood and growing up, and it takes place in Nebraska, in
Okay.
Ainsworth, Nebraska, where I grew up, and a lot of my childhood memories are woven into that book. So
I love that. Do you find that to be therapeutic in some way? Because it sounds like your characters are kind of like Arden wannabes.
yeah, yeah, it is extremely therapeutic,
Okay.
especially with Echoes of Us. I started writing that one after my dad passed away in, gosh, 2007, I think it was.
Hmm.
Um, and had insomnia really bad and was trying to figure out how to fight through that. And so I was like,
Right.
oh, I'm just going to start writing again. And that's when Echoes of Us started. And that was like 15-ish years ago, I think, or around
Wow.
there.
Okay.
And it's just kind of grown. And it's finally at a point where I feel comfortable, like getting it ready
Okay.
to publish and put it out there for folks.
That's a long time to have a work in progress.
Yes, it is. It is.
So that
I'm ready to be done with it.
yeah, yeah. So there's that fine line, right? Like you enjoy writing it, you're on it, but then once you get towards the end, yeah, you're like, okay, it's kind of like a vacation. When you're done, you just want to be home already. If you have to go
Exactly.
home, right? So, um,
Exactly.
it, that's really cool. So, since you're writing basically from your own life, right, your own experiences, your book blurb mentions a queer kid stuck in rural Nebraska. Yeah, let me say that again. A queer kid stuck in rural Nebraska. So, I know that now you're in the Carolinas, so you're still living in a rather conservative area. So, how do you hope your work can contribute to representation and visibility for other people like yourself, for the LGBTQ plus community, especially those in those rural, more conservative environments? How do you hope to contribute to that?
Oh, such a great question, especially now, given everything with the state of the
Right?
world. Um, I think my main hope is just to let people know that we exist.
Very good.
And
Yeah.
part of what I hope is that people can see themselves in my characters and know that a hero isn't what we were maybe brought up to think of as a hero, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Like,
I love that.
especially elder millennials, growing up in the 80s and 90s. I know myself, I was raised on action movies, and I
Hmm.
would rewrite them in my head with queer characters. And that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from as well. And I would have given anything to see characters like that in the content that I was consuming when I was younger. And so to be able to write that now in my 30s and hopefully share that with other people in their 30s, 40s is I get like chills talking about it because
I
it's
just did too.
because I feel like we're missing it. And so it's kind of giving us a piece of our childhood back that maybe we didn't have. So that's kind of what I hope for.
I love that so much. And the other thing that I was thinking about when you were just saying that, me being a straight person, I have friends, a lot of friends that are, like you, and I found it really nice to read something like that from the aspect of if more straight people, especially the people who don't understand, would read books like yours and books with heroes like that, they would get that you're just like everybody else.
Yeah, we're
You
just
know what I
people.
mean? You're people. I mean, when my dad found out someone that I know was gay, he's like, well, they don't seem any different.
How
I'm
are
like,
they
they're
supposed to see you?
right. How, how exactly would they be different? And so I loved that from a straight perspective.
No, that's wonderful.
See, yeah, because I think, like you said, you exist, you want to be seen, you want to be seen as just like everyone else. It's almost like when you talk to a handicapped person and they say the same thing,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying you're a handicap in any way.
Oh, yes.
Please don't take it like that. Don't be sending me hate mail, people. I'm saying that it's a similar concept, right? That
Mhm.
everyone wants to be seen. And I feel like that as a woman. I feel like that even more so as a woman that is past menopause, because
Mhm.
we all want to still feel like we're contributing to society. We
Yeah,
all have our part. And so I think it's great for people to read books about all kinds of people.
exactly. And to see themselves in those characters as well.
Yes.
I think that's a huge part of any content that we consume is having it being able to connect with it on some level and to see
Right.
yourself in it. So
Oh yeah.
important.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. So with the trilogy, which actually I guess you're going to have to stop calling it a trilogy, I think, because there's 5 books in it to that
There are
series,
5.
basically now. So I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you call that? I don't even
Uh,
know what a
just a
fivesome.
series, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe.
So because you've got the prequel, which I read the
Yep.
prequel. I have not read the holiday series, the holiday book yet. Um, Beyond romance, are there social, political messages you're hoping to convey? Um, I get a little bit of a mafia feeling in the book, and I haven't gotten, I know, no spoilers. That's just kind of the feeling I'm getting. So I feel like beyond romance, I'm seeing that genre come out. A lot of people enjoy like a
Yes.
mafia romance. So you've got this little bit of a crime slash mystery slash romance. It's definitely not just romance. What kind of social, political, other types of things are you exploring here?
Good question. Which is funny because this is like one of the hardest questions for me to answer, and I'm like, I wrote it. I should know this. But for me, there's definitely, like you said, there's definitely like some mafia, some mystery, like action
Yeah.
thriller, um, vibes in there. But I'm finding that in my writing, I am very much into exploring relationships in
Okay.
different ways. Especially like platonic friendship
Okay.
is really big one for me. How people can have like really close relationships, whether that's with a coworker or a friend, and just have them be not all consuming, but have them be the most important relationship at that time in
Great.
their lives. And I love exploring that, especially like with he and James. They have like a
Hmm.
very close, they're coworkers, but they have a really close relationship. Um, Gray and Marcus,
Yes.
they're also like very close, good friends. And that's something that I'm personally interested in, so it comes through in my
Sure.
books. But I would say like just that interpersonal connection and relationships are a big part of my books.
And I love that because more and more we're hearing how people don't have that anymore, how people aren't, seeing each other in person, how everything is, this, right? And
Yeah,
people still need to be in person. I mean, I
yeah,
know that we've talked about in the Authors Allies Roundtable, getting people together in person. There's just something about being able to give someone a hug, a high five,
yeah.
knock fists, whatever it is, right? And I just, yeah, I think it's really good. And I think the more people reading about those relationships, the more they may crave that in person.
The interactions, yeah,
I,
100%.
I love that. I love that. And, one thing that I have to tell you, because I was thinking about this last night when I was looking through my questions for you, that first book, because this goes like, I have this question here. How do you approach building suspense, keeping readers engaged throughout the series? I have to read from my paper because otherwise I will totally jumble my words. You did a great job with that suspense
Oh,
in book one
thanks.
there, because I'm only halfway through book two right now. But at the end, I was like, I was starting to kind of see what might be going on, and I don't want to give it away, but I was like, ooh, okay, right. So I knew I had to keep reading. So kudos to you for that, because I was like, but yet you didn't leave us on that cliffhanger. I do not enjoy a cliffhanger. So
Yeah,
you finished the story, right? But we were like, okay, but we
there's a
need
little
more.
bit more.
Yeah. How hard is that to do? How do you figure out? I don't know. How do you do that?
Um, I really lucked out, honestly, with this
Yeah.
first series. I um had this idea. There's a scene in book one where Gray and Hannah are on the dance floor and they're kind of really connecting for the first time.
Okay.
And I had that scene in my head for the longest time. And I was like, I have to write a book around this.
Oh,
And so that's how book one came about. And it just kind of flowed naturally. I had no idea where it was going until I started writing it.
yes.
And then I came up with the plot twist and worked that in and then made some changes, in the front of the book to kind of match that surprise
Oh,
at the end
okay.
there. But I will say pacing is something that I really struggle with when I write.
Okay.
And I'm lucky that my editors know that I struggle with my pacing.
Mm,
So I work really hard with them and on my writing to make sure that everything like has a good flow and a rhythm to it
okay.
because especially with suspense, it's hard to like hit those beats in the right way.
Yeah, and something that you just said kind of caught my attention. So a lot of authors say what you said, and that the characters sort of direct them, right? Once you start
Mhm.
writing the book, the characters sort of tell you where they want to go. And I can totally understand that. I've got like 5 novels in progress myself. Don't know if I'll ever finish one, but it's just fun for me, right? But how often, like you've written, several books now, do you almost always find yourself when you get to the end having to go back? Because you said you had to go back and change a few things. Is that pretty common as a general rule,
Um,
or is that just a you thing?
I, I don't know if it's like super I think it's kind of common. I'd say fairly common amongst
Okay,
writers, especially I think probably in the suspense, especially if you're
that would
like
make
me
sense.
too, and I don't plot.
Okay. No,
I kind
hey,
of
I think
jump
pantsers do
in.
a great job. I love my books. So
Yeah, so
however you
every
get it
now and
done.
then you come across something and you're like, oh, this is amazing, and you write it in, and then you're like, wait, it makes no sense. I have to go back.
I love that. So that's definitely common for you. And yeah, I could see it would almost have to be with a mystery because you just don't know with any sort of suspense
Yeah,
how it's going to turn out until you start writing the full scenes. Even if you're not a pantser, right? That's what they
yeah.
call that writing, stream of conscious writing, right? If you're an
Mhm.
outline person and you've got it all together, I'm sure those people still have surprise twists and things
Yeah,
their characters want them to get out,
they just take
right?
over sometimes, but
They do.
I will say the writing of books 2 and 3 in the series, the, uh,
Yeah, show
Fall
us
Into
those
Me,
covers so we know
yeah,
what to look for.
like, Fall Into Me
Love it.
and We All Fall, these were so easy to write after that first
Really?
one was done because I knew where I wanted to go,
Ah,
and I, like, already had the stories in my mind, so I was able to just sit down and kinda, like, get those out and done and do the whole series, so the first book was a little tricky, but books 2 and 3 were so
that's
easy to
awesome.
write.
I would imagine that's probably somewhat common with a series writer in general because that first book is so much about building that world, right? And so
Yeah,
you've got to build this entire, background, the entire environment, and it's not like a movie or even a graphic novel where someone can look at it. Like, we're
Yeah.
totally happy to see it in our brain. And for you to be able to do that, I think that's got to take a lot more brain power in
Oh,
that
time.
first story. But that actually goes right into my other question that I have, because now that I've read the prequel, I've read Fall into Midnight, I'm working on Fall into Me. The way I'm reading it, am I correct in thinking that each of the main three books anyway are concentrating on a different couple within the
Mhm.
series? And then the holiday book, is that the prequel was kind of still the that goes really well with book one, but and
Mhm.
then the holiday one, is that kind of everyone? How did you kind of do that within the
Um,
series?
the I think of the holiday one as kind of like the cherry on top of the series. It
Okay,
really wrapped up kind of everyone's stories quite
good.
nicely.
Okay.
But it is another dual POV told from Gray and Hannah's perspective.
Okay, good.
Um,
Okay, so they're still kind of your main stars of the
yeah,
series.
I kind of wanted to bring it full circle and
Yeah.
kind of wrap up their relationship because they've been together for the longest and through all three books. And so I really wanted to kind of give readers a fun little like wrap it up in a nice little bow and just be like, here you go. Here's my holiday present.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read that now. But I have to finish these other two first, because i- I'm I'm invested in the two of them, right? Because I've
Mm,
prequel. I read book one, and I am
yeah.
enjoying book two. Is Key, right? And
Hmm.
I forget what's
And
the
Marcus.
Marcus. Thank you. I'm enjoying that so far, but I still go, okay, but what about Hannah?
Yeah, what about Gray and Hannah?
Right. So I love that you're going to wrap that up, but their story. So if I read your series, even though they're different, different couples in each one, which I know this is a popular thing that's kind of going on in romance series right now anyway, or, some of these other series similar, I'm still going to see the story continue. So the story is still taking one big long continuation,
Yep.
and it's just kind of told from these different angles. And then at the end, pulling it all together. It's genius. I love it. I can't
Oh,
wait.
thank you. Yeah, it's I know I've been told that you're not supposed to say they're your book babies because it means you're like too attached to them or something,
Oh,
but it's like I'm very proud of my series, and I still sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I wrote a series. Like,
right?
it's very cool. So it always makes me very happy to meet people that have read it and that are enjoying it. So it's
Well, do you think
wonderful.
you may ever go back and touch on it again? Like,
I do.
okay, good. Yeah, because people who fall in love with a series, they always want more. I mean, they do. Like, there's, the ABC series and things that are out there, and I'm like, well, what happens after Z? Do we go AA? I mean,
Yeah. It starts at one to we go through the numbers.
yeah, because you always want more. So you haven't written it off, I guess is what I'm hearing.
No, and I think
Okay,
when you
good.
get to the holiday novella, you'll see I've kind of laid a couple of breadcrumbs as to who the
Perfect.
next
Okay,
couple may be.
okay. A
So,
little foreshadowing going on there.
yeah, just a little bit.
I
Well,
love it.
it's a little heavy-handed, but I was like, I gotta make sure people know.
Okay. Okay. No, that's cool. So we may still see them, pop back in from time to time. We may get a little update on how everyone's doing
Exactly.
via another series, another story. Okay. I
Couple
love that.
couple of standalones. Yeah, it'll be got I have some plans.
Yay. Yay. So I definitely need to finish the other ones before reading the holiday, since it's, like you said, the cherry on top. I mean, don't eat dessert first, right? So
Well,
I know. Okay, maybe
everyone
that's
loves
a
it.
bad analogy, because we all love to eat dessert. But okay, that's really cool. So right now, your main project is the Echoes of Us. That's
Mhm.
kind of the next thing coming up. So tell us what your typical writing routine is like. Do you have any specific rituals, habits that kind of get you into that creative mojo flow going on?
Yeah, I rely a lot on music.
Oh, okay, cool.
I create playlists for each of my books,
Love it.
and the music isn't necessarily um, what I know some authors like create playlists that go specifically with the book.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mine are mine is the music I listen to write the book. So as you
Okay.
listen to it, you're getting kind of a peek into my like mental state, I guess,
Gotcha.
and the
Gotcha.
vibe I was trying to embody as I write. Um, so I really, really rely on music. I'll put a playlist on, kind of settle in, get my coffee, my water, and like just sit down and start writing.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned coffee because, we started as books and brew. So we got to have coffee. So is
Yes.
yours black? Are you drinking black coffee there?
I'm yeah, today I usually do creamer, but I
Okay.
decided to go just black today.
I don't think I can ever train my brain to do that.
I gotta mix it up a
I,
little bit.
yeah, I mean, I do try to make my own versions of Starbucks kind of drinks at home now and then,
Mm,
but typically this
ooh,
is my breakfast. I have a protein drink in my coffee because I have to get my
ah,
protein in and I don't like breakfast generally, like
I
early. I
feel
don't,
I feel
I kind of get that in. And I always have to add a little skinny syrup so I have different flavors so I can pretend I'm a barista
delicious.
time to time, right? Got to do it. I
I
know.
am a fan of a vanilla latte. I used to make them all the time, but I've gotten lazy, so now I'm just like coffee.
So now just black,
Just
black
black
coffee.
coffee, the easiest.
Now, if you're drinking black coffee, are you going to be writing at midnight? Like, do you find yourself, because, back to your routine for writing, of
Yes,
course, but,
yes.
I have to have an aside for coffee, but, uh, you said you've got your music, and I love that if I listen to one of your playlists, it's like I'm feeling the ambiance, right? The
Yes.
emotional flow of the book. That's pretty cool. Um, if you've got your music, you've got your coffee. Are you going to be writing in the morning? Does it just really depend on when the mood hits you? Or are you, I know some writers say, oh, I can't write at midnight. I can't write at this time. Or, are you like
Yeah.
that?
I'm definitely, I would say, like a mood writer,
Okay.
uh, but I tend to write later in the evenings.
Okay.
And I do drink coffee late. I am immune to caffeine,
Because you're in
or I
your
have
30s
a
still.
lot of it. Yeah. Or if I drink too much of it, I might be up late, but I can
Okay.
usually drink coffee pretty late in the evening and do just fine sleeping. But I would say like 7 p.m. is kind of like my golden hour when it comes
Yeah.
to writing. That's really when I sit down and I'm like, all right,
It's time to
let's do
write.
this. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So, when I noticed that at the beginning of your books, you had a publishing company listed in there. So when
Oh,
I first started reading your books, I did not realize that you were the publishing company. And
yes.
I love that because, I mostly work with self published authors, right? Since Authors Allies mostly works to promote the books, we work to promote your work and teach other authors how to get their books sold. What kinds of things have you found as a self-published author that have worked to sell your books? I mean, so many people just think they put a book on Amazon and they will come, right? And I
Yeah.
think by now, if you're an author, once you put your first book up, you realize that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
So, what has worked for you? What kind of marketing tactics have worked in your career here so far?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the publishing because or the publisher at the beginning of the book, because that was a piece of advice I got when I first started working on my book, and it kind of just gives your book like a more polished
Absolutely.
professional look, which I was all about. So I
Great.
do recommend that um, you do that. You create like an imprint
Mhm.
essentially for your own books. Um, but when it comes to marketing and selling as an indie author, honestly, in-person events I
Okay.
find are have been the best for me. Um, Conventions, markets, like any type of in-person event. Like I've done book fairs at breweries and bars
Oh,
that have
fun.
been some of my best selling events because people are
Books
there
and
to,
brew.
yeah, they're there to drink and buy books. So they
Love
do
it.
really well. but the thing I love the most about in-person events is even if people aren't buying books, they want to learn about your book and they
Mm,
want to like take your freebie. So I always recommend having like um a some type of freebie. So
okay,
like my novella is free and I have that on a little card that I give out where it
perfect.
has a QR code,
Okay,
scan it, takes you to my website, download my freebie. Anything like that that has your information on it along with your freebie, I think is so
perfect.
important. Um, but they just want to talk about books. Like if they're
Right.
there at a book event, like they want to
They're in.
know. And it's great for you to like practice your elevator pitch and get like your whole spiel down for, what your book's about, who you are, why they should read it,
Right.
all of that. So it's great practice for pitching too.
Well, and I would imagine the other aspect of that is meeting other authors because no
Oh,
one understands
yeah,
your life like another author. Like for me, I so enjoy meeting other female entrepreneurs. That's why, I go to Columbus, try to get up there monthly to meet the other ladies that are in my coaching group because no one gets your life like someone who's doing what you do, right?
100%. Yes. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was another thing I wanted to mention is the authors. And I've found that as an indie author, the majority of people who are buying my books are other authors.
Really?
Yeah. So
Very
it's
supportive. I love that.
yeah, and that's one of the other things is like building that community, getting in on anthologies with other authors. Like
Mm,
my holiday book is part of a series with 11 other authors. So doing things like that help promote your books and connect you with their readership. Oh,
yes.
huge advantage to that. So it's
I just did
wonderful.
a little short. I did a short about that, and then one of the first podcasts that I actually did was about the 3 things to sell more books this year, and working within other people's audiences to me. Which I mean, I know you're in the roundtable, so you know how much I already love that concept of that collaboration.
Hmm.
But not only are you making friends and making business friends and just learning, but you're selling more books
Yeah.
and that is wonderful. I know when I looked at your website, I saw you've already got several conferences and in-person events planned this year.
Yeah, I
Wow.
did a few in 2024, and so my goal for 25 was to do more bigger
Yeah.
conferences just to
Okay.
see how it like does it increase my online sales? Does it
Okay.
increase like the community that I'm building online? Like I really wanted to see how doing big book conferences this year would affect
Interesting.
everything.
See if it's
So
work because it costs you some money to do those. I know that.
yeah, yeah, they're
And obviously you need
pricey.
a return on that investment.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm fingers crossed.
Right?
But I think it'll be good, um, either way, just to do it this year, and
Mhm.
then I can approach 2026 knowing, okay, these are good conferences, these didn't work
Ah,
out well. I saw an increase in website visits after this
perfect.
one, but I didn't after the other. So I'm hoping to get some like
Good
not to get
research data.
nerdy, but yeah, some research and some metrics out of it to kind
I'm
of
all about nerdiness.
yeah, I'm like
You do that.
metrics, you gotta
Do it.
love them.
Well, I think that's really important because being a marketing person, there's authors that I work with that I say, look, we need to do ads. Well, that can get very out of control quickly with your
Mhm.
budget if you don't strategize that. And then the same thing, even with all of it, like all of it costs money. Like when you're going to those conferences, how do you remotely determine how many books to print to take with
Oh,
you? Or do you not really print? I mean, I assume you have to have some books because people want signed books. So how do you
yeah.
do that?
I'm still figuring that out. I
Okay.
took
Well,
way
let us
too
know when you
many
do.
yeah, I took way too many to my first conference.
Okay.
Um, but I think it also has to do with if the conference does pre-orders or not.
Oh, okay. Is
Because
that
then if people have already ordered it, I don't think you need to
really
take as
helpful?
many.
Okay.
So I took like a suitcase of books
Yeah.
last year, and it was way too many. So
Yikes.
I'm gonna like cut it in half and see how I do this year. So I will let you know.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, and I mean, from my advice, of course, for that is also, you said you've already got like QR codes and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
of course, you're going to already have the option for them to be able to go ahead and like pre-order while they're there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm out of book one. Go ahead and click this code on my clipboard right now. Order book two, order book one, and I will, you know,
Right.
mail that to you, right? So there's certainly ways around that you don't want to disappoint them, and you can
Mhm.
still try to snag that sale right then, right? Because you don't want
Yeah,
them to go home and forget about you. That would be sad.
super smart. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then those spare books, I know you talked about how you did bundles at some of the things
Mhm.
too. Is that what you did with those spare books then? Or do you offer sales? I mean, obviously, if you've got several events, you can just hold on to them and you'll sell them throughout the time. But if you
Yeah,
don't have something coming, are bundles kind of what you would do, or would you think you do better offering a sale of some sort to your community?
I'm a fan of a bundle. I
Okay,
mean,
you have some
especially when it
cute
comes to
ones.
like, well, and especially when it comes to like a series.
Yeah,
Like personally, if I'm a reader and I'm reading something that has cliffhangers, I'm like, oh God, I got to get all of them now. So
right.
that's my goal. I'm like, I'll just, here's a a two, a three, or a four-book
Yeah,
bundle. Plus, you get some merch in there. Like, I'm a big fan of like throwing in goodies. Like, when I send
yeah,
you a package, you get a package. It's
I
like
love it.
you get the books, you get candles, you get socks, you get like a whole bunch of stuff. So, I really like to, I think building bundles is maybe one of my favorite things to do.
It's so fun. Well, and like I said, I
Um,
follow you on Instagram and Facebook and well, Patreon, which we should definitely tell everyone about. But you know, the photos were so stinking cute of the things that you were putting in, and they make fabulous gifts. I'm
yeah,
just I've been reading forever. I'm a total reading nerd, so I can nerd out over any sticker bundle series. All of it is just like, ooh, right?
yeah,
I'm like a kid on Christmas when we're talking books. But I love that. And you can be creative in keeping that going, especially with this series. The nice thing is, yeah, okay, you ordered too many books for the first event. Well, you're going
yeah,
to have more events and you've got the next book to go with it. So eventually you'll sell them, right? And so
yeah,
there's that. and
yeah.
and
And I
that
like
just,
having
you
stock
know,
on hand.
yeah, because people want, if you're a real if you're really into reading, y- and a series especially, like a lot of series, I at least get book one and get it signed. If I'm going to read a
Mhm.
series, if I can get a signature on at least one of those books, I'm like, yay, I feel special. You feel like, okay, this is really cool, and so I think that's really a good way to do that, is getting that out. We talked a little bit about building community, and you mentioned, your community. um, I know you're on various social medias. I've seen you on Substack. I joined your Patreon. Tell us, what are your goals with things like that, and how, again, because I have to go back to the marketing a little bit.
Mhm.
How are you hoping to use that to grow your reading audience and your book sales?
I think so for me with my books, one of the reasons why I am so active on social media, I'm probably too active on social media, honestly, especially Instagram, but I
Impossible.
can't help myself.
I
I
love it.
desperately want to build an online community. And so I'm everywhere. And it's not just a community of readers. I really want it to be a community of, um, you know, part of the LGBTQ community and allies, and just
Mm,
a place where we can share our wins, share our losses, be compassionate towards each other, and also have a common interest in books
I love it.
and the community as a whole. So I really want to build that type of space.
Okay.
And so I have a Facebook group where I think I'm moving in that direction, but I'm also like not a huge fan of Facebook. And not everyone is on Facebook. So I have the
Yeah.
Patreon to try to kind of also build that community. Um, but eventually I might move towards like a membership on my website or something
Okay.
where I can combine the Facebook and the Patreon into kind of just one space
Okay.
centrally located on my website. Um, but that's definitely a couple years probably down the road. But yeah, I just want to build a
I love that.
lovely little community.
Heart-centered people and authors and book lovers.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah. It brings me great happiness. So
I love
I
that.
I really hope that I can do that.
So if someone joins your Patreon as a paid member,
Mhm.
what makes that special? What do they get being a paid member versus just going in there and being a free member? Tell us about the goodies.
Get so much good stuff.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. So the Patreon, it's patreon.com/Arden Coutts,
Okay.
ARDENCOUTTS. And you get free chapters
Ooh.
from Echoes of Us. So I'm currently working through developmental edits and rewriting a huge part of that book.
Okay.
And I am releasing new chapters every other week. So you're getting to read the story before anyone else. And then
Just love
your,
that.
yes,
So
I
fun.
love it too. And your
VIP
input
access.
too.
Yeah.
Exactly. And your input, which is something I would love on Patreon, is one of the things why I like it so much is because members can comment and like
Right.
and what I would love is for people to read the chapters and then like for us to have a conversation in the
Mhm.
comments. And those conversations will help make the book better. So
Absolutely.
that's a huge part of why I went to Patreon. So I've got free chapters, you get desktops and phone
So
wallpapers
cute.
every month. You get some of my artwork. So I share my artwork. There's some travel stuff in there. You get vlogs, you get videos. I mean, really anything and everything. It's kind of just a space for me to like gab.
I love it. It's a space for you to be you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like it's because I know that the people that are there want to be
Right.
there.
They're
So
not
it feels
just
like it's a
scrolling
little,
past you and stop and poke you
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. It feels like it's a little bit of a like a more manageable, kind of safer space. So
Sure.
that's another reason why I really enjoy building over there.
I love that. I love that. You mentioned the travel thing. I feel like I had seen that you're doing some stuff with that. Tell us about that.
I
If you
am.
want.
So
I mean, you don't have to, but
I would love to.
if you feel like
I'm
Barry.
in the process of becoming a travel coach,
Ooh, a travel
and I'm
coach, not a
a
travel
travel
agent.
no, a travel coach,
Okay.
which is to help you if you're going on vacation or want to do an at-home writing retreat. Like we could work together to figure out how you can set intentions and add mindfulness to your writing practice to make sure that you're using your time accordingly. And it comes with coaching before and after your retreat.
Yeah.
Um, or your vacation. And I'm also holding some virtual writing retreats, which
Very
I'm super
excited.
stoked about, which hopefully you'll be a part of.
I am. I'm excited. I'm ready. Tell me what to do. I put the date in my calendar already. Yeah.
So we'll be talking about marketing, PR, bringing mindfulness, like yoga practice into your writing. And then we have some free writing as well. So it's, yeah, there's information everywhere about it.
So the travel thing for you as a travel coach, you called it, it's not just I'm taking my family on vacation. This is more like travel with a purpose.
Exactly. Yep, that is a perfect way to put it.
Okay. I love that. I love that. And are you going to be talking about that on, I know you said it's like everywhere. Are you going to be talking about that on all your social channels? Is that only a Patreon thing? Do we need to get on your newsletter? Like, how do people find you in general? Like, where can we find you?
Yeah, I again am on too many social media
And we'll have all
platforms.
those links in the notes. So you don't have to
Yeah,
give us
okay,
the whole
great.
like rundown, but of the
Um,
links. But yeah, but just a general, like
um,
so on all the socials,
Instagram,
is that what you're saying?
all the socials. Instagram is definitely my bread and butter. I'm on there the
Okay,
most,
that's the main one. Okay.
and I have two Instagram accounts. One is just at Arden Coutts,
Uh-huh.
and that's primarily my author stuff. And then my other one is at Wandering Creative Life, and that's
Okay.
where I share writing tips
Okay.
about the writing retreat, travel, how travel and creativity go together.
Love it. It's more the
So
business end of it.
yeah, and so you can find again, Instagram is probably where I'm the most active,
Okay.
but please come find me on Patreon too. And I have
Yeah.
free memberships as well, and I'm very generous with the content I share across the different tiers. So,
I love that. I love that. So finding you on Instagram, going to be easy. Do you have a YouTube channel?
oh my
Or
gosh,
are you
yeah,
are you active on it? I mean, I know you have a
I
channel, but
am.
are you okay?
I am,
Okay.
and
That's exciting.
it's Wandering Creative Life as well,
Okay.
and I do vlogs. I have one coming up where I share I'm getting ready to go to a market with my books.
Very
So
nice.
that one will be coming out soon. So I
Okay.
kind of share a little bit of everything over there.
Oh my goodness. I know that that you've had a part-time job in the past, like working for someone else, and then
Mhm.
you are kind of looking for some more stuff too. If you're working full-time, if you
Mm,
go back to working full-time, because I know you're kind of just, like the rest of us, deciding where to go, right? What you
yeah.
want to be when you grow up,
You gonna
no matter
grow up,
how old
yeah.
you are. How does an author fit writing in when it's a full-time, if they've got a full-time gig? We have a lot of people that listen to my podcast and reading my blogs and emails and stuff. They have full-time jobs still, but yet they want to write a book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the whole goal with Authors Allies Roundtable is that we're working to like build that marketing suite step by step so they can do that. Do you have any specific advice for that person who's really got a full life to fit that writing in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I writing is like any other habit, right? You have to like really be intentional about your use of time and say, okay, every Tuesday or every Wednesday, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write from 6 to 7.
Okay.
Um, but I do recommend finding like writing groups, especially
Okay.
online ones,
Yeah, there's
that
some
you
good
can
ones
write
I
with,
know.
because
Okay.
then it holds you accountable.
Okay.
Um, but I also, I'm going to throw this one out there. Um, doing voice notes
Yeah.
throughout the day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then you can use AI or transcribe it yourself later.
Mhm.
But, if you're at work and you have a 15-minute break, you can sit down and talk through what you want to write about or essentially read your unwritten story, if that makes sense.
No, I
Um,
love it. I use
into a
it all
voice.
the time.
Yeah. I think that's a good practice too. But it's really just about building that habit, which can be hard.
So building the habit, maybe having some accountability in some way,
Accountability.
and
Yep.
using those small pockets of time to really do it. I'm a big fan of the voice notes too. And
Yeah.
it's, everything you mentioned doesn't have to cost money. There
Nope.
are free groups for all of these things. Everyone pretty much has a cell phone now. And
Yep.
so there are so many notes features out there that you can
Yep.
use. And I actually use, so that I don't have to get it transcribed, I use Google Docs, which so that I just put it all into a Google document a lot of
Smart.
times. So you could just put it in there. And then what's cool about it is it's already transcribed. And then you could just rearrange as you feel
Yeah.
like it, which is
It's
nice. So
brilliant. Yeah.
doing that works too. Really, it sounds like to me from all the authors that I talk to and from the things that I do write. I mean, I have journals and planners and things that I do as well. Um, it's just about finding what works for you, right?
A
Like
hundred
this
percent.
might
Yeah.
work for me, that might work for you. But like you said, building that habit, and you can set a reminder in your phone if you've decided you're
Yep.
going to write every Tuesday at 7, then you put that in your phone. You put that on your calendar as a date with yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
Love that.
And the great thing about the time that we live in, I guess, is that we do have social media. Like you can get on YouTube and type in writing sprints, and I guarantee you that there will be dozens of people that are live on YouTube doing writing sprints that you can join.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's so cool.
yeah, there are a lot of tools that you can access for free, like you said. So I'm a big fan of writing sprints on YouTube.
I love that. And now you're making me want to host some. I think that's a
Yeah,
great thing to
yes,
do. I love
yes,
it. I love it. But you can't really have music. I was thinking when you said that, I'm like, oh, you could have your cool music that you're using in the background. So if you're hosting it, it's got to be quiet because it's,
yeah,
you know, or uh, maybe there's some AI music or some sort of sound effects, I'm sure that you can legally use. So you definitely need to check into that. But I
yeah.
love that idea. When you've joined those sprints, do they do any talking? Do people pop their like here's what I'm doing kind of thing in there?
Yeah,
How does that typically
yeah, they
work?
have the chat going on the side so people
Love
can
it.
do like they usually do like 15 to 20-minute increments or intervals.
Okay,
So
check-ins. Yeah,
they'll write for 15 minutes and then do a 5-minute chat where the host comes in and is like, how's everyone doing? Like, what are you working on? Like, how's everyone's day going? And then they read chat comments and have a conversation. And it's a great,
that's so
very
cool.
positive experience so far for me. So I
I
highly
love.
recommend it.
Well, I would love for you to, if you have any that that like people that like do that, I'd love for you to share that so we can put it in the notes if you've got a couple you recommend, because
Absolutely.
I think that would really help me too. Like I said, I've got, several novels in progress. I just don't go back in there, but maybe just rubbing shoulders with some of that motivation, with
Yes.
other people. That's just, again, part of that community that you talk about, right? So, yeah, if you know of any, we'd love to get those in the notes. And,
We'll share
and,
those for
um,
sure.
yeah, I think we should share a couple of those with people and, get those going. That's really cool. So let's see here. Wow, I think I covered all of the main questions. So people can find you. Instagram is your main bag. You are
Yep.
on Facebook. You've got your YouTube channel. You've got your Patreon. I know you've got an email list because
Yep.
that's a big thing. Are there any other social channels that you're fairly active on, or are those kind of the main ones people should look for?
I'm on Blue Sky as well, but
Okay,
I'm
it's still
still
kind of
kind
up
of
and coming. Yeah,
yeah, and but yeah, Instagram is really the big one
it's
for
kind of the
me.
big one for now. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. And then for buying your books, we want people to buy your books, of course. Um,
please.
what's better for you? Website, Amazon? Are you kind of on both?
I always recommend buying from the author if you can. So my
Absolutely.
website is the
Okay.
best spot, and that's ardencouts.com.
Okay.
I've got some fun merch on there with my little rainbow logo,
Yay.
and my books. If you have a Kindle, it's on Kindle Unlimited
Okay.
as well. But
The Kindle Unlimited. Nice. Okay.
yeah. So
That's definitely nice.
support.
Yes. If I go to your website though, can I get an ebook on your website, or is that going to have to be through Amazon?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be through Amazon. The only
Okay.
one you can get off my website as an ebook is the prequel.
Okay. No, that's great. And is that free on your website?
Yes, that is free.
All right, you heard it, people. Free prequel. And I can tell you, I loved the prequel. I mean, I love the whole series so far. So I'm very
Thank
excited to
you.
finish the series. And, I need to get at least one signed copy from you at some point. So we'll
Yes,
have to work on that when you come to Cincinnati.
I can say when I
Um,
come to Ohio.
that would be great. That sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm so excited to see where you go with your career and to read some of those chapters. I know I joined Patreon not long ago, and I am a little behind. I usually do my Patreon reading on the weekend. So when I get in there, you'll probably see a lot of comments from me.
Yay.
That's kind of how it works. I read and yeah, I do it all. I do it in like chunks.
I
So
love it.
yes, I'm excited to do that. So I appreciate you so much being on the show. I really do. I really do.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. This has been really
It's
wonderful. So thank
fun.
you.
I've learned new things too. So, hey, I'm always
Yay.
excited to be able to learn new things to share with my authors. So I appreciate that.
Fun. Yay. Thank
Thanks so
you.
much. Thanks so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We're going to have notes. So, make sure that you check out the notes. You can get the links to how to find Arden all over the place, but specifically Instagram, and check out Patreon, YouTube, all of the things. And we will have notes on Authors Allies and Authors Allies Roundtable in there if you want to join us at the roundtable. Arden is actually a member, so you can have chit chat time with Arden now and then. You're always so you always add so much to the conversation. So everyone, keep your brew handy. Whatever's in your cup is fine. Just keep it going and keep writing. And we will see you on the web. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoyed our exploration of the literary world. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode where we'll have more fascinating interviews, book reviews, and marketing tips. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Leave us a review and share us with a friend. To get your free copy of our ebook, 10 Steps to Your Ultimate Book Marketing Plan, be sure to head over to our show notes. Until next time, happy reading and writing.